Hello, and thank you for joining us on our continued Entrepreneur Espresso journey. On this show, hosted by PANJ Radio, we meet local business owners, entrepreneurs, and influencers. Today's guest has the right entrepreneurial stuff and is, in my opinion, very bullish on our local business economy. We will meet our guest in just a few moments. This is Stephen Harris, owner of Rivertown Photography and Amplify Your Voice, social marketing for local business. I want to thank PANJ Radio for hosting our show. PANJ Radio is an entrepreneurial venture all by itself with the goal of bringing local music, news, and other interesting content to the Lambertville, New Hope area and the world. Right now, we are storming and forming as we speak our first PANJ music event, a fundraiser at Prowlsville Mill in nearby Stockton. 13 hours, 2 stages, 50 plus musicians, and over 30 raffle items donated by local business. This event, I'll gotta change something here because we just got some changes here. This music marathon is gonna be really quite big. Family-friendly event. Come join us on March 5th, all day. Look for details on PANJ Radio Facebook page, Millstock 2016. You'll see that hashtag all over the place. Now back to our journey. Last week we asked the question, what is an entrepreneur? This week, we believe an entrepreneur is also an optimist, somebody that sees the glass half full, even when it's empty. This is the drive that keeps you going, even when you feel the world is against you, against your idea, against your dreams and visions. Sometimes it seems your closest friends and family are often the most negative to your new ideas or ventures. Maybe they want to be protective of you in case your business comes crashing down all around you. Yet, when you seek investment capital, the first thing investors want to know, how much has your family and friends invested? So you have to be bold. You have to be strong in your conviction to rally those closest to you to join in your vision before you visit the Shark Tank. In a future show, we'll talk about the TV show Shark Tank, by the way. I happen to like that show, and what you can learn from all those crazy interactions with the successful sharks. It's entertainment, but if you look at it really closely, there's some pretty good tips in there on how to create and sustain your business just from watching the show. Back to being a business optimist. How do you keep your motivation strong when you are in your store? Well, we'll talk about that in a second. And no one is coming in, or you launched your product online and no one is buying. Do you stay focused, positive? Think about what you can do to create more buzz, drive more awareness, even on a rainy or snowy day when all the local tourists are away. Do you look to each day? Yeah, I'm reading this off a piece of paper.
Shame on you, Stephen.
I can't memorize these things. Do you look to each day as a new adventure, even Mondays? For me, when I've hit the wall with one of my businesses, I get fired up and often pivot, change directions. Sometimes the change or shift is small. Others have been big. And sometimes those big shifts don't work, and then I shift backwards again. That's what you do. My guest keeps nodding his head up and down, so I guess I'm saying the right thing here. You have to be a weeble. A weeble, we'll talk about it. Get knocked down and pop back up again. Did you like the fact that I mentioned a toy?
There you go.
See, I'm trying to get this theme going in here, so a weeble. I could have probably done better. Okay, before we meet Greg, like Steve Lau last week, often entrepreneurs have totally different backgrounds, like we'll learn today. How does being an executive in a healthcare space prepare you to be the owner of a successful toy shop in New Hope, Pennsylvania? Let's find out. Our guest today on PANJ Radio and Entrepreneurs Espresso is Greg, and I'm hoping I'll say your name right, Gauthier.
Gauthier.
Gauthier? Seriously?
Just like the designer.
Gauthier. I work. There's no CH in there, though. Okay, Gauthier. I'm going to mess it up when I say it at the end. Greg Gauthier. In 2014, Greg took over the family business located at the time in Peddler's Village, right here near New Hope. Then he moved it to New Hope and is in the midst of opening a new store in Frenchtown. Very business and clearly, very busy and very clearly an optimist in this marketplace. Hey, Greg, thanks for being on our show.
Thanks, Stephen. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. So tell us who you are.
Well, born and raised, I think everybody around here that has met me knows that I'm from Canada, and born and raised in a little small town 8 hours north of Toronto, so about 600 miles north of Toronto, wow. Where I think the temperature this morning was about -18 or something like that, and that's Fahrenheit, of course, but and I think in Celsius we're probably about -40. But anyway, it was a small community railroad town, 500-600 people at the best of times. Winter lasted about 6-7 months a year, and we did whatever we could to get through the days. And what that generally meant was we played a lot of hockey. And I left home when I was about 12 years old. I was a half-decent young hockey player, and got picked up by a team that was living about 70 miles away. And so I left home when I was 12. I've never really gone back, actually. Wow. And so I went first to play hockey, second to go to school, and so on. And of course, up until about when I was about 17 years old, I determined that hockey wasn't going to be my future. But like everybody in Canada, everybody thought it was going to be, you'd be playing in the NHL alongside, in those days, the Mahovliches and Bobby Orr and all those guys. But so after I left the hockey world, I went back to our high school in town, and then went off to university in Southern Ontario, University of Waterloo, which is about 60 miles from Toronto. And from there, the corporate world kind of took me over after I left the university.
Wow. So your dreams of being what position did you play?
So I was a defenseman, played defense from the time I was young, and right up until I left, I got a little bit of taste of the junior hockey league in Sudbury, but was kind of sent home fairly quickly. My father, I got beat up in a hockey fight, and my father came down and said, I think school was probably the better bet for me at that point in time.
I remember somebody in my neighborhood got to go from New Jersey up to Canada to be in a hockey school. He was awesome. The Devils he was a young kid. The Devils loved him, all that kind of stuff. Went up there, came back with his tail behind his legs. It's it's a different world up there. So
it's like everything else. I think when everybody's father thinks their kid's going to be in the NHL, and the problem you have is that a lot of small communities, there are a lot of guys who actually made it, and a lot of guys who are really good, and so it makes it easy to sort of dream. But don't forget, that was back in the 70s. That's almost 40 years now, I guess, when I think back to it. And the money wasn't the same as it is today, and so on and so forth. So I think it was many of us played for the love of the game, but it was a fun time.
Do you still put the skates on?
Up until I was about 45, I haven't really played any organized hockey in the last 10 years. I blew my knee out a couple of times over the course while I was an adult, and I love the game. My friends still play, and a lot of my friends still go to travel to Europe on different teams and so on and so forth. I wish I hadn't stopped, but I did.
That's what happens to us all. So,
there you go.
So then you shifted over. Now you're in the corporate arena. You got a real job. Tell me what you did there. Well, I was an entrepreneur from a very young age. My grandfather was a retailer. My grandfather lived in our small little town, and was always kind of in the retail business. He owned a barber shop and confectionery and so on and so forth. So when I was leaving school, I really didn't know what I was going to do. And I wasn't really a great skier, but I was actually approached by an individual to start a ski tour company actually in Ontario. He was based in Montreal. They were French Canadian, and they needed a sort of young bilingual individual who can help them out. And lo and behold, when I left school, the first thing I did was jumped into my own ski tour company, and we had a great time for a couple of years, ran ski tours into various parts of Canada, a couple of European ski tours to Kitzbühel and so on and so forth. Broadened the business from pure skiing to other sports. I started in 1986. We did the World Cup soccer in Mexico, and golf vacations during the off season, and so on and so forth. And so that was really the beginning of my business world. And one of the individuals who was actually on one of the ski tours was the president of Baxter Canada, which is a large healthcare company based out of Deerfield, Illinois. Well, I just got engaged actually to be married, and the president and I were having a conversation on the way home from the ski vacation. I told him that I'd kind of been told that I needed to find a real job, and thus
the beginning of my healthcare corporate life. I got back and he hired me about a week and a half later, and off I went into healthcare.
Wow, the best kind of networking, huh?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So you have the entrepreneurial background. See, when I read your bio, that part I said, he's a corporate guy turned into, so you did have those roots.
Always been an entrepreneur. Even while I was in the corporate world, I always had kind of a separate small company, did little things on the side, consulting, and went from Baxter Corporation to a large company called C.R. Bard, which was based out of Massachusetts at the time, and did some work for them, and in fact jumped into my own company right after that in the early 90s, and created a company called Health Paradigm. Partnered with an individual by the name of Larry Grossman, who at the time was he was the leader of the Progressive Conservative Party in Ontario, and he was actually the ex-Minister of Health. So between the two of us, he had all the contacts and the Rolodex and capabilities, and I was the sort of young gun and feet on the street. And we ran for a couple of years and had a good time, created a nice little business, and but unfortunately, Larry passed away from a brain tumor, and I then decided that the entrepreneurial side of life wasn't the greatest thing for me. I wanted to maybe sort of roll into some. I had 2 kids at the time, and needed to roll into something a little bit more stable and jump back into the corporate world.
Yeah, and when I was at ADP, I worked for a lot of skunk work projects. So we used to call that being an intrapreneurial.
There you go.
An intrapreneurial, so there's a lot more energy than what we found elsewhere in the company.
Yeah, well, I think even on the corporate side of things, for me, it was as much as I was in corporate and have been in corporate for the better part of 30 years in my career. My forte and expertise was generally startups, turnarounds, taking over a division that possibly needed help, et cetera, et cetera. So really, I utilized my entrepreneurial sort of background, I guess, at the time, within the corporate structure. And I got bored very easily, which a lot of entrepreneurs do. I could, which is why I like the project-based businesses, because I'd be there for 2 or 3 years, and I was able to move on to the next assignment or company, whatever it be at the time.
Oh, makes sense. Restless. Entrepreneurs are restless.
Yeah, you get restless, or, I think you talked earlier on about the glass half full. I was one of those guys, and I think, the stuff that I was doing, you really had to be, because a lot of the times when you're coming in and doing turnarounds and shuffles and so on and so forth, there's a lot of negativity within the building or within the company. You've got to be that guy that virtually can see sort of ahead of the game, and at the same time, you need to stay positive. I mean, both from yourself personally, as well as to hopefully bring it forward to the employee base in the company. So
you did your time in the corporate world, and then you found yourself somehow in this area. Now, did you have family connections in this area? What brought you to New Hope, basically?
Well, what brought me to New Hope, it's a long story, basically a perfect storm. I was running a healthcare company called Alaris, which was basically a merger between 2 of the larger infusion pump businesses globally. And my wife, Leslie, who many of you know and many people around here have met, was actually a clinical consultant for Alaris out of San Diego. And so I was running the Canadian business. She was the clinical consultant in San Diego. She'd come up to Canada and do demos and so on and so forth for a lot of my sales force. She was also empowered. She comes with her own very positive corporate background. She was actually leading the launch on a global basis for a brand new IV pump that was actually being launched around the world. And so Leslie leading that program was up in Canada because we were one of the test sites for the product, and we were very successful in launching it as well. As I say, one thing led to another, and when we got engaged, unfortunately from corporate, regulations, and because I was actually running the country business, she was not allowed to work for me. And so at that point in time, she decided to jump into the family business. She moved up to Canada when we got married back in 1998. And from 1998 until today, Leslie was actually involved in the toy business, although she's always been in the toy business, growing up with it with her mother and so on and so forth. And I'll kind of explain how that all happened. But so she commuted from Canada for about 12 years. She'd live 10 days in Canada and commute back here and, work with her mother or then run the business afterwards for 10 days and come back while I was actually running various businesses in the Canadian market. I came here for a couple of years. I was working for AmerisourceBergen, which is a large drug distribution company out of Valley Forge. So we were kind of doing back and forth over the past several years, which is how we all ended up in Bucks County.
Okay. Oh, so Leslie, who I have met, Leslie's family had the business here in Lahaska, in Peddler's Village.
Leslie's mother.
Leslie's mother
is an individual that frankly should be known even more based on what she did in the toy business. Her mother, Doris Thompson, was a housewife, 3 kids, back in the late 60s, early 70s. Life as a mother in those days, she was kind of living off of an allowance. Leslie's father was working on a day-to-day basis. Leslie's mother decided that, I want to do something for myself. So again, talking about entrepreneurs, she's a lady that could easily be sitting at this round table and have a conversation, because she was an entrepreneur before the word entrepreneur was even discussed. She was actually a cottage industry, if we all remember. If you ran a cottage industry, you're kind of that entrepreneur and so on. Right. She actually wanted to do something. She found these mice that were being manufactured in Germany. They were basically remnants of old fur and so on and so forth in Germany. Mm-hmm. She had a group of individuals that she hired, and she bought a container of these mice, brought them to Philadelphia. They lived in Philly, and she had 50 or 60 women that were basically making various designs for these mice, and by that I mean clothing and facial expressions and so on and so forth. My mother, with her 3 girls in tow, basically hit the road, started selling these mice in various retail stores, went to flea markets, you name it. Yes. She was there, and thus began the concept called the Mouse Factory, and that's how many people know her. And that is how she got into the toy business. And from the Mouse Factory, she ended up, one of her best customers was the vendor shop that was located in Peddler's Village. She had said at one point in time that, if you're ever selling the business, please call me. And lo and behold, she got a phone call, and thus began the Village Toy Shoppe. She bought the vendor shop in Lahaska, and took it over in the early 80s, and it's still in the family today.
Oh, that store still is?
The store at Peddler's is no longer there, of course. We moved it.
Right, that's what I thought. Yeah, that's exactly.
Correct.
So, okay. And now I think there's still a toy store there now, isn't there?
There's a toy store.
Is that the same footprint? Is that where you were?
We built that store. My mother-in-law and father-in-law actually, with Earl Jamison, the founder of Peddler's Village, they basically built that store together. My father-in-law put the glockenspiel that was up there. It was basically my mother-in-law's design was sort of a European cottage, true European toy store. And that was built for us. So yes, the footprint is still there. There's another business that is located there, but we ran that toy store from the early 80s or mid 80s, I guess, up until 2014.
Wow. Very cool, very cool. Then you decided you're going to move to New Hope.
Yeah, moving to New Hope was a decision that we had been having for several years. As my wife was slowly starting to take over the family business, New Hope was something that we'd always discussed. In fact, back in 2001, 2002, I went and met with folks here in Lambertville at the Five and Dime store, which was up for rent, and we were thinking about opening a second store at the Five and Dime. We couldn't, come to an arrangement with regards to that space. We then started to look at New Hope, and we got very close actually in renting again, same time frame, 2001, 2002, the little shop, which you wouldn't know. I don't think you were here at the time, but there's a little shop right across, which today is the second part of Sal Savione's clothing store.
Right, okay.
So there was a shop right there on the corner.
Right, okay.
And it was a jewelry store at one point in time. And so we got very close to leasing that space right around the same period of time. And, the rent was still fairly high at the time. And we also had to struggle because there is a clause in your Peddler's Village lease that you weren't allowed to open a second business within a certain mileage of Peddler's Village, I guess is the best way of putting it. And so we weren't ready because Mom was kind of at that stage where she was thinking about. She was kind of at the semi-retirement phase, and Leslie and I still weren't ready to leave Canada on a full-time basis, and so we stayed in Peddler's Village at that point in time. We've always looked at New Hope. There was always feet on the street in New Hope, but the question always was, were people shopping in New Hope? And so it took us a long time to figure out what exactly we wanted to do.
Yeah.
In 2014, so we kind of jumped over a few things, but in 2014. Leslie was now fully involved in running the actual family business, which was known as the Village Toy Shoppe, which was located in Peddler's Village. And at that point in time, Mom had some issues that needed us to come and spend a lot more time here. It was a good time for both of us because my children, who are both up in Canada, have kind of grown up and moved on. So there was really nothing holding us back to now move here on a full-time basis. And so we looked at it sort of as a three-pronged type situation. One, come and take over the family business on a full-time basis, the two of us.
Right.
Two, provide my mother-in-law Doris some support. We've got a fairly large property over on Windy Bush, and provide her support at the farm. And three, we've got a couple nephews and a niece that needed some support, parental type support as well. And so we kind of threw our hats in the ring and always planned on being here longer term. That was the long-term sort of strategy. And that's why we ended up here.
Okay. So did you retire then from the corporate world at that time, or kind of migrate out of it?
The corporate world retired me. I think being the entrepreneur I was and still am, I was the president and CEO of a large drug distribution company in my last corporate gig up in Canada, and it was owned by a lot of the multinational pharmaceutical companies. I was brought in again on a project-type basis as the president and CEO to either find them a purchaser, B, either find them a partner, or C, figure out what to do with the actual organization. As I got into that organization, the first thing I decided that I wanted to buy it, and it was taking me into a much larger direction as far as entrepreneurship that I had been in the past. I mean, it was a large, as I say, organization. did about $800 million in drug distribution and so on. But within about 6 months, I approached the board and told them that I was going to put a somewhat of a management buyout strategy in place, and was given the green light, and thus spent about 24 months trying to put that together. And unfortunately, the end result of it was that I was unsuccessful. Although they wanted me to stay on as president and CEO, I decided that I just put way too much time and effort into the actual acquisition that to stay there under the same rules really wasn't something that I wanted to do. And thus, I needed to take a bit of a break, some downtime, which is what I did when we moved here. And, I'm happy I did.
So it works out that way sometimes. So
well, I think that's a big thing with an entrepreneur. I think when you start talking about entrepreneurship, and you need to be able to, you're going to fail. You're going to fail many times. That's just the way it is. I mean, for every 10, there's probably 1 or 2 that succeed.
So good. All right. Now that was great. So now we're going to come back on the second half, and we're going to talk about the here and now. We're going to talk about a little bit more about New Hope, the business in New Hope, and take it on from there. So stay tuned, and we'll be back in just a few moments.
Thanks a lot.
Hey, this is Pat Foran and
Zach Romano
here at PANJRadio.com. When I have time, I'm hanging out here at the studio
with the Shack Radio Boys.
PANJ Radio serves Mercer, Bucks, and Hunterdon counties and the world, and we want to serve your business on our airways. Commercial rates start at just $50 for a 30-second spot on your favorite PANJ show. We run your ad not just once, but up to 7 times in a 1-week period. That's a lot of bang for your buck online. We will track the number of listeners your commercial gets, so you can measure how many new customers you get from airing it with us. For more information, please contact Rob at PANJRadio.com or call 609-460-4550. We can't wait to bring your company new local business on PANJ Radio.
Are you having fun running your business marketing? Or does online marketing and social media overwhelm you? Would you like to use Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, Snapchat, or LinkedIn, to name just a few online social marketing opportunities to market your business successfully? Amplify Your Voice can help. We work exclusively with local businesses in the PANJ radio target area of Hunterdon, Mercer, and Bucks counties, offering social media workshops, one-on-one coaching, managed services, direct online marketing, and web design. Contact us today at 973-615-5287 or email us at radio@ampyourvoice.com for a free no-obligation review of your online marketing. You can also visit us at www.ampyourvoice.com. Amplify your voice in a crowded market. Together, we will put the fun back in your business marketing.
This is Joe.
And Russ.
And Tyson. And we are
Sourland.
We, amongst 50 other local musicians, are playing the Prowlsville Mill Music Marathon on Saturday, March the 5th.
It will be at the Prowlsville Mill in Stockton, New Jersey from 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. 13 hours of non-stop local music on 2 separate stages. So come join us. You can buy tickets now at panjradio.com. It's going to be a blast.
We're back, Entrepreneur Espresso on PANJ Radio with Greg Gauthier.
Not bad.
Getting a little
Stephen.
closer.
Not bad. You're almost bilingual now.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's funny, because, I've known you for quite a while, and I guess I've never referenced you by your last
There
name.
you
So
go.
you learn things all the time. It's a whole, it's a friendly town. People just Greg, Leslie, Steve, Rob.
It's all on first name basis. That's a big part of why we enjoy it so much.
It is a great place to be, isn't it?
Yep.
And Baxter. So let's go to New Hope. So I want to talk about your PR director there, Baxter. But so now we got the store in New Hope. So you moved. You did move. You put roots down right on North Main Street. You can't miss it. It's a wonderful shop. Tell me a little bit more about the toy store. Tell me, what differentiates you? What is your style? Who are you as a toy store, as opposed to, and we won't name names, like those big box companies?
It's and it's okay to name names. I think that, and we have no issues even when people come into the store, because we are so different than, the Toys R Us of the world and so on and so forth. I mean, and we're no different, by the way, than other types of businesses, whether it be home hardware companies that try to stay alive with their box stores and so on and so forth. I think that the toy business, and it's unfortunate because there's not many of us left. There's not many Village Toy Shoppes left across North America. And in fact, even some of the larger franchised so-called specialty toy stores have a hard time surviving, with Walmarts and Toys R Us. But I think the reason we are so different is, again, you go back to what my mother-in-law did when she actually took over the store in Peddler's Village. I mean, at one point in time, just so you know, in Peddler's Village, we actually had a 3,200 square foot toy store. We actually had a 2,000 square foot doll store. We actually had a 1,400 square foot train store, all within about a 65 foot area, and within that we also had 6,500 square feet of warehouse space in basements of buildings in Peddler's Village. So we had this big footprint. But my mother-in-law actually created a lot of programs. It was really important for her to attach herself to the community. Now that's hard at Peddler's Village because you're not actually within an actual community. I mean, La Hosca is a small little spot, but my mother-in-law went out and created these programs, Mother Goose reading program, which she had this lady, a teacher, that would dress up as Mother Goose and go to various schools and read and so on and so forth for the kindergarten kids. We were the original Breakfast with Santa in Peddler's Village. We drove hundreds of people into Peddler's, every December, but that was done through the Village Toy Shoppe and my mother-in-law's marketing. Breyer horses, I don't know if you know of, but they're collector horses, and we used to run an actual Breyer horse show in the back part of Peddler's Village where people would come by the hundreds and have their horses dressed up and, corrals and things like that. We had bales of hay and so on and so forth behind the store. So
Wait, real horses or the toy horses?
The actual toy horses.
Oh, okay, I just want to make sure. Okay.
But I mean, she ran it as if it was a true horse show. So when you look at that is how the Village Toy Shoppe was built. Those are the types of programs. You see our big bear that we actually have outside of our store, which is, everybody. In fact, we still have a lot of people now that come in, visitors, and they say, hey, we park near the big bear or whatever, even if they don't know our store. We used to have a bubble bear outside of our front of our store. My mother-in-law would get these bears made for her in somewhere in New York, and we were known as that kind of a store. So when I go back to your question, what kind of a store are we? we're completely different. You don't find us everywhere. I mean, when you walk in my store, or I shouldn't say my store, I'm going to get beat up when I get home. When you walk into Leslie's store, the first thing you see when you walk through the door is we've got a big Noah's Ark with stuffed animals and so on, and the ark going up and down. And for us, it's really important to watch the kids' eyes as they walk to the door. And I mean, it never fails. I mean, the eyes are big, the kids are pointing. In fact, and I don't mean kids that are 4 years old, it could be a 50-year-old kid. I mean, at the end of the day, everybody enjoys it. And I think that's what's really important to both Leslie and I know it was important to my mother-in-law when she built this business. And although we're trying to make it different, because you need to change. That's what it's all about. That's what I did in my corporate world. I think that's why Leslie and I we're good partners. She's the toy person. She knows the toy industry. She just spent 4.5 days at Toy Fair. She loves it. I mean, she knows what comes from the past. She knows what should be positive in the future, and so on and so forth. So from us, it's really important to have educational toys. It's really important to have play value in the types of products that we actually have.
You're really part of the community, and you're just. And it's not just the big bear. It's your dog that sits on the front, and people take pictures. Baxter, who obviously was named after the company you worked for, I guess.
No, he wasn't. My son named him actually after the dog in whatever the movie was with Will Ferrell.
Oh, okay, that makes better. By the way, that makes much better sense. By the way,
Anchorman. So as we hear at the radio, that's actually who he's named after.
Yeah, I was looking at your bio, going, really? Well, I guess that's cool. So, but tell the one story. This was fun. You got some publicity for this. There was a duck that was caught in the drain. Yeah,
it was. Again,
this is so New Hope.
It goes back to what New Hope and Lambertville and sort of the river towns are all about. I mean, it's you are correct. The fact of the matter is, we are part of the community. We've tried to become part of the community. I mean, these poor little ducks were crossing the street with their mother, and the mother's walking ahead of them. Unfortunately, the ducks didn't see the water grate, and each one of the ducks fell down into the grate and down into the sewer,
right,
or into the water area. And I was watching it, and the mother turns around and she was having a conniption, and so the first thing you do, you phone the fire department or you phone 911 and tell them. And I mean, it was actually a lot of fun. In fact, it could have been something that was, it wasn't very nice, but they ended up saving the ducks. We brought a bunch of plush that we actually had. I've got, as if you walk by our store, there's always these large plush that are sitting out front, and we put them around the parking area so that instead of having cones, we had large plush, and I got more play out of that. I mean, it was on Facebook all over the place. We had phone calls from Baltimore and other cities going, what happened type thing. And I think the beauty of that, though, that came out is, if that was the biggest news item from New Hope, it goes to show that you're living in a pretty nice area.
I remember seeing the picture, like the little lion and the tiger, all kind of blocking the traffic there. So, I mean, and you had to do a double take, like, what's going on there?
And they all played up. The fire guys were great with it, and the police was awesome with it. I mean, took pictures with the plush and things like that. So yeah, it fits in. I think, New Hope for us, when we came to New Hope, it was a big part of what we wanted to do. We weren't sure whether we were going to succeed. We weren't sure whether a toy store was going to be what was required, at least our type of toy store. And we both discussed with each other, and we said that, what we believed, Leslie always wanted to be a community-based program. She wanted to get involved in the community. I've kind of got I like getting involved, I like saying what I feel, maybe sometimes too often, but I've gotten into sort of the political side of it and so on and so forth, and we really enjoy it, and I think that's what's actually been positive for us. We're not always right, and we know that. I'm not always right. I've said things that maybe I would like to take back over the course of the last 2 years, but we've made an inordinate amount of friends. I think we've become the local toy store. We create, I think, a pretty fun environment. We try to provide customer service that you're not going to find at the big boxes. We know people on a first name basis, like we talked about a little earlier. We try to get to know the kids. We try to get to know their ages. We try to get to know what they're up to, so on and so forth. And it's fun. It's fun going to work. After 30 years in the corporate world and being in the boardroom and, having to lie your way through things and so on and so forth, the bottom line is that this is a lot of fun. I enjoy it. I enjoy trying to figure out how to build it. I enjoy, looking at what's next for us. So we're here for the long haul.
Yeah, it is very personalized, but you have to be in a small town like this, so, because that's what we are. We are very, very personalized. It's one of the reasons that we gravitated to Lambertville, we like that kind of environment. And I know what you're saying. Sometimes I say things too and get in trouble. So.
Yeah, but I think
that's right. It's a small town.
And I think that's what's good about it, though. I think part of what attracts people to New Hope, Lambertville, whether it's Stockton, Frenchtown, et cetera, is a little bit of the quirkiness and so on. It's a very artsy community. I mean, you've got the talent in just say Lambertville and New Hope. I don't know enough about the other towns, but the actual talent in these two towns is immense. And when I talk about talent, it's not just the retail talent, but it's the arts community talent, it's the galleries, it's the restaurants, it's the chefs and so on. And you name it, it's amazing. Actors, singers, music. You guys are going to be getting involved with the Prowlesville Mill program. I mean, it's when you just see that list of entertainers that are, a lot of them locally, it's amazing. And I think that's what's really fun. What we do, I don't think, is a lot different than a lot of the other successful businesses in town. We all do it a little different. But I think, if we could do it more together, I think we could become more successful. But I think customer service is what we all bring to the table. We all bring a little bit of different products. But there's a lot of amazing retail talent in New Hope. So when you talk about, my optimistic views and so on, I truly believe that there's so much opportunity. And one of the reasons that I believe that is when you look at sort of the so-called the A-list businesses, I'll call them, the Bucks County Playhouse, the Logan, with the Cretella family, what they're doing with the Logan and Hotel de Village. The good news that just came out over the last 24 hours about Chez Odette's and their plans. It looks like, things are going to start to move forward there. You had Stephen Lau here last week, things that he's doing over at the Raven. I mean, so if I look at those A businesses, I mean, to me, as a smaller business and somebody who wants to reinvest in the community, that really makes you feel pretty good. I mean, if these guys are putting the 7 figures into this town and into this community, and I forgot about the Lambertville station and what they just did, and so on and so forth. Yeah. I mean, I can go down the line. Then you start to look at some of the other things, the Dubliner that came to town, a nice little Irish pub. You look at some of the other businesses, Swarm, and New Hope is looking to build a new business. And I mean, hey, I think everybody should be looking at the glass half full. I mean, we spend way too much time looking at the glass half empty and talking about parking and this, that, and whatever, and things that we can never fix.
Right, exactly.
It is what it is. Yeah. I think that Main Street USA is on an upswing. I don't say we're ever going to get rid of malls, but it is what it is. But frankly speaking, this past weekend, our store was doing Christmas-type numbers. And it's based on the weather. I mean, so as long as the weather is good, and as long as you can run a good store, and as long as you can be optimistic and keep that smile on your face, I truly believe that you're going to be successful in this area.
So let's talk about this. So on a snowy, rainy day when there's nobody in town, what do you do in your store? I mean, this is kind of that advice thing we were talking about. So you're in your store, Leslie's in the store, and it's a rainy day, and there's just nobody here because we are a destination that's kind of weather prone. What do you do? What do you do with your day?
For us, for Leslie and I can't talk about everybody, but I think the successful. But for us, we're always planning. We're always looking at, whether it's raining or snowy, and there's only a few stores. I mean, today, it's February, and the month of February, New Hope is fairly dead, other than on these past weekends with the weather being what it is. So you're out, you're doing other things. You're doing things that you're actually building towards, the future, or you're adding new things to your current retail environment. I mean, you've got to stay fresh. You've got to change. We're looking at moving to Frenchtown.
Right. Talk about that in a second.
So we're working on the Frenchtown plans, and we've got a couple of other family-oriented businesses. Our big part of our plans as well is we do really well with human toys, so we decided that we're going to open up within our store, toys for paws and claws. There's a lot of dogs and cats in our community, and we get asked every day whether we actually sell animal toys, and so we're going to launch those products over the course of the next month or two as well.
Oh, that's innovative. And it is a dog town, so absolutely.
A lot of fun.
That's toys for dogs.
Toys for paws and claws.
Paws and claws.
There
Awesome.
you go.
Hey, before we talk about Frenchtown, one of the things, are you following your mother-in-law's ideas of programs and events? Do you do things out of your store now? Programs and events?
Programs and events.
Like your mother-in-law was doing the reading.
Oh,
and things like that.
we try to, and yes, we do. I mean, I think at the end of the day, like Leslie spends a lot more time with that portion of the business,
Okay.
but as well, that part, the social media side of things has also changed the world, and my mother-in-law is still, and she tells us whenever we want to listen, and or whenever we're listening, she talks to us about the Mother Goose reading program, and or but a certain type of reading program, and so on and so forth. We've kind of looked at that. We'd love to be able to. We don't have a lot of space, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Where we're at, we've talked about having arts classes in sort of the back room, and we've talked about having reading programs. But on the other side of it as well, one of the things that I'm also very concerned about is that Farley's is a fantastic bookstore in town. We're not a bookstore; we're a toy store. We're a toy store, but we sell kids' books, and we'll always sell kids' books. But one of the things we don't want to become known as is sort of the reading program, and so on and so forth. There's also a really great library in town that has some great people working for it, and so on. So we'd much rather work with them and create programs that can support some of our neighbors, and so on and so forth. And I think that's what we've been looking at. We sell puppets, so I've contacted Alex over at the Bucks County Playhouse. We'd love to see a real professional puppet show over a weekend, at the Playhouse over the course of the next several months, and so on and so forth. So I think we're looking at some of these things. Those are the types of programs that we've sort of put ourselves to. Leslie's actually, she works with some of the soccer teams. This coming season, we decided this year we're not going to advertise at all. And instead, what we decided is, because we've become such a big part of the communities, we decided we're going to support virtually the local baseball teams, both in Lambertville as well as New Hope, and we're going to support the local soccer teams in Lambertville and New Hope, as opposed to putting money towards advertising, because our belief is those are our customers, and I'd much rather sort of put some of the designated dollars that we would have put into newspaper advertising and so on and so forth towards some of those programs, because they have supported us for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And we'd love to continue with that in the community.
Yeah, keep giving back. That's a good thing. So you see your marketplace being more local, or do you see yourself being, well, local certainly this time of year, but I mean, are you
The way we look at our business and the way we want to, and one of the reasons we're moving to Frenchtown is that the way we actually build our business from the toy store is that if we can create and pay for all of our expenses through our local customers, then our weekends are where we actually can truly profit down the road. If all we're doing is building our business for the weekend traffic, we don't think we're doing what we should be doing as far as the actual toy store is concerned. I think we came here to be part of the community. We came here to service the community. We think we can survive through the community, meaning the locals, And those wonderful weekends where we've got 100,000 people walking our streets and I'm doing Christmas type dollars and so on and so forth, that is all positive business that, is what we're really looking for.
I hope some small businesses, local businesses hear that, because I think that's awesome advice right there. If you're planning, if your business is set up in that way, a gallery might not have that same kind of a DNA for the locals, but if you have a business in town that can sustain themselves with the locals, then you're right. Every tourist that comes in afterward is just...
And I think that's what we've got to do, and I think that's when you look at the glass half full, I'm not saying I'm right on everything, but I really believe most of the businesses could and should, really be going down. You're right, the galleries,
They're a little different model.
It's a different model, and it's a different business. But we hear all the time that we don't have enough... The locals aren't coming to town. Well, there's a reason locals don't come to town, and that is because there's only certain businesses that appeal to the locals. And so unless you're actually coming for A, B, or C, you're not really coming and doing your shopping. I think that's what we can become better at, meaning, and I'm really, as you well know, and I didn't mention it, but, I'm a huge supporter of the Greater Lambertville New Hope Chamber of Commerce, because what I believe they are doing, and I believe that the longer term strategy that they've got in place in creating this Rivertown strategy, et cetera, I think that they're going to help us bring good businesses to our local communities that will then translate into the locals actually wanting to be in town and wanting to shop. I think, the farmers market that's being planned for Four Seasons Mall.
Excited about that.
Whether it's a full mall or half the mall or whatever it is, it's a positive venture. It's going in the right direction. I mean, if all we are restaurants and 4 or 5 stores, of course you're not going to get the locals on a day-to-day basis. But I really see a lot of the businesses, like a lot of good businesses. I see our locals a lot. And you know what? The locals are there Monday through Friday, and that's what we need. We're always crying about business on Monday through Friday. Well, that's the one to focus in on.
I love shopping locally. I actually kind of do it as a thing. We just did it. We just went to a friend's birthday party, and I just walked up the street in New Hope, and I bought something from this store, something from this store, something from this store. Flowers for Valentine's Day from the new floral shop in our town. I just get a big kick out of the idea that I can just walk to some place and I can satisfy almost all of our purchasing needs for those kind of things. A few things it can't, but of course for those, I think that's exciting. It's fun, and more people who live in our towns, in our areas, should be doing that. So
you're exactly correct.
That's awesome.
And other than and even from the supermarket standpoint, unfortunately, Superfresh went out and so on. So we, I think that's the one area that we could probably try to figure out how to become, get more locals into the community. But I totally agree with you. We do the same thing. I mean, Shop Small is a big program nowadays that you see. I think it's twice a year, if I'm not mistaken. I hear more and more and more from even the visitors that come into town that they love shopping Main Street USA and so on.
Wow, so we're really moving ahead. We only have about a minute left. Tell us about Frenchtown really quickly, because that's pretty cool.
Well, I think for Frenchtown for us is there was a toy store there
Yes.
for several years. It was called Sunbeam. Sunbeam went out of business last year, and which is unfortunate. It's again, this smaller family business that's gone away. But I think for us, Frenchtown is so close that we're taking a fairly small space. It's not going to be a large store, but we'll have everything in there that we currently have in our current store. Our feeling is that we can actually run it from New Hope, meaning that we'll still do all our ordering and so on and so forth through our New Hope store, and we'll put our product into the Frenchtown. We're going to run it as a family. That was a big part of what Leslie and I decided when we first started the New Hope store, and that is that it's going to be her and I. So we'll kind of tag team, and one of us will be in New Hope and one of us will be in Frenchtown, and
Wonderful.
We'll roll back and forth that way. And we're extremely excited because we hear a lot that Frenchtown is on the way up.
Yep.
I speak to George Michaels and all these other guys, and we've done our homework, and I think we can be a real success.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited for you being there. So, and in New Hope as well. So, Greg, I really appreciate you being a guest on our show. I think you've said some really great things that some of our locals should listen to. So thanks a lot.
Thanks, Stephen, and keep doing what you're doing.
And same with you, buddy.
Thanks.
Thanks a
Bye-bye.
lot.